Rain slashed across the narrow alley, blurring the glow of streetlights into trembling halos. Ethan stumbled backward, his breath ragged, his palms scraping against wet concrete. The voices around him, deep, mocking, venomous, grew sharper with every word. Think you can hide who you are, huh? One of the men jeered, shoving him against the wall. The impact knocked the air from his lungs. His chest ached, his pulse thundered. The sound of boots splashing through puddles filled the space where courage should have lived. Ethan didn't fight back. He had learned that resistance only made them angrier. Fear pressed like a stone against his ribs. The rain mixed with blood on his lip, the taste of metal lingered as another blow caught his shoulder. He tried to speak, tried to beg, but the words drowned in the storm. Then, as if the world paused for a heartbeat, a new sound entered the chaos, a single, low voice cutting through the rain. Enough. The men froze. Ethan's blurred vision caught the shape of someone stepping out from the shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered, drenched in rain, the stranger's voice carried a weight that silenced the street. Walk away, he said again, calm but certain. The leader of the group scoffed, but something in the man's stance, firm, unmoving, made them hesitate. A single moment of tension, then footsteps receded into the storm, muttering curses until only the rain remained. Ethan sagged against the wall, trembling. The stranger crouched in front of him, a hand extended. You okay? His tone softened, steadying. Ethan looked up. Through the blur of water and light, he could only see fragments, the curve of a jaw, the glint of dark hair slicked to a forehead. No face, only presence. He reached out hesitantly, and the man pulled him to his feet. Can you walk? Ethan nodded, though his legs barely held him. Thank you. Don't talk yet, the man said, slipping off his jacket and draping it over Ethan's shoulders. The warmth of it startled him, thick fabric, smelling faintly of smoke and soap. Let's get you out of here. They walked in silence through the wet streets. Ethan followed, half limping, clutching the jacket as though it could shield him from the world's cruelty. He didn't know who this man was, or why he had intervened, but there was something undeniably steady about him, an anchor in the storm. A few turns later, they stopped before a small building with peeling paint and flickering lights. The man unlocked the door and gestured him inside. It's not much, he said, but it's warm. The apartment was simple, bare walls, scattered tools, and the scent of engine oil lingering in the air. A small lamp cast amber light over a worn-out couch. The man motioned for Ethan to sit. I'm Liam, he said finally, kneeling to grab a first aid kit from under the table. Hold still. Ethan's voice was a whisper. Ethan. Liam cleaned a cut on his cheek, the sting biting into the silence. Ethan studied the movements of his hands, rough, careful, trembling slightly as if the act of helping carried its own weight. Why did you help me? Ethan asked quietly. Liam didn't answer right away. His eyes lingered on the bruise forming under Ethan's jaw, then dropped. No one deserves to be beaten for being honest, he said at last. His tone carried something heavy, personal. Ethan wanted to say more, to ask what he meant, but his exhaustion drowned the questions. He leaned back, eyes half closed, feeling the warmth of the small room replace the chill that had lived in his bones all night. Liam bandaged the last cut and stepped back, uncertain. You can rest here tonight. The couch is clean. I'll take the floor. Ethan shook his head weakly. You don't have to, I insist. Liam's voice was gentle but final. The rain outside softened to a whisper. The room settled into quiet, filled only with the sound of distant thunder and the steady rhythm of breathing. Ethan turned slightly, the jacket still wrapped around him. Liam, he murmured, yeah. You feel safe. Liam froze, his gaze fixed on the window where rain traced silent rivers down the glass. Get some sleep, he said softly. Ethan's eyes closed, his heartbeat finally steady. The storm outside moved on, but inside, something new had begun, a fragile calm, born in the shadow of pain. Liam stood in the half-light, watching him, jaw tight, eyes full of something he didn't yet dare to name. The clock ticked once, echoing through the quiet, and for the first time in years, both of them felt the unfamiliar weight of safety, and the quiet fear of what it might awaken. Morning crept in quietly, slipping through the curtains like a hesitant visitor. Ethan stirred on the couch, his body aching but his mind strangely calm. The scent of coffee drifted from the small kitchen, where Liam stood shirtless beneath the pale light, stirring sugar into two mismatched mugs. Ethan watched him for a moment, uncertain if he should speak. The night before felt like a dream, blurred pain and the warmth of a stranger's kindness. Sleep okay? Liam asked without turning. Ethan sat up slowly. Yeah. Better than I expected. Liam nodded, placed a mug on the table beside him. You can stay a few days, until you're steady again. Ethan's lips parted to refuse, but the words faltered. He didn't want to leave yet. The world outside still felt cold, sharp, unsafe. Here, despite the silence, there was something different, an ease he hadn't felt in years. Days passed quietly. Rain came and went, tracing memories against the windowpane. Ethan helped around the apartment, washing dishes, fixing the small radio that sat by the couch. Liam worked long hours at the garage, returning each evening with grease on his hands and a tired smile that never quite reached his eyes. At night, they talked. Not about the attack, not about fear, but about small things, childhood dreams, favorite songs, places they wanted to see. Liam spoke sparingly, his words measured and soft, but Ethan listened as if each one carried a hidden story. Point one evening, Ethan found a photograph pinned to the fridge, Liam with a woman, her arms looped around his waist, both smiling in a summer haze. He hesitated before asking, "Is that your girlfriend?" Liam's expression changed, just slightly. "Yeah. Claire." His voice lowered. "We've been together a while." The words sank like stones into the air between them. Ethan nodded, forcing a small smile. "She looks kind." "She is," Liam said, but his tone betrayed something else. Distance. Regret. That night, Ethan lay awake on the couch, listening to the sound of Liam's footsteps in the next room. Every movement seemed heavy, restrained. He told himself he wasn't falling for him, it was just gratitude, confusion, loneliness. But lies, even gentle ones, couldn't hide the truth for long. The following week blurred into routine. Coffee. Work. Quiet laughter. Yet beneath it, a pulse of tension hummed. Liam's phone vibrated constantly, Claire's name lighting up the screen. He'd silence it every time, slipping the device into his pocket without explanation. One night, rain returned, fierce and unrelenting. Liam came home late, soaked, his hair plastered to his forehead. Ethan stood waiting by the door with a towel. Their fingers brushed as Liam took it, and something inside them both shifted. "She thinks I'm working late," Liam murmured. "Claire. She doesn't know I've been helping you." Ethan's chest tightened. "You don't owe me anything." Liam looked up then, eyes dark and searching. "That's not what it feels like." A long silence followed. The air felt electric, trembling between confession and restraint. Ethan took a step closer. The world outside vanished, leaving only the sound of rain and breath. "Why do you keep helping me?" he whispered. Liam exhaled, slow and pained. "Because when I look at you, I see the part of me I've been running from." The words struck deep, unguarded. Ethan's heart pounded as their eyes met. No faces, only shadows, but the tension was unmistakable. The first kiss came softly, almost accidental, rain still dripping from Liam's hair, Ethan's hand trembling against his chest. Then it deepened, urgent, desperate, as though both had waited too long to feel something real. The moment burned quietly, fragile and forbidden. When it ended, neither spoke. The storm outside howled as if to drown their silence. Later, Ethan lay awake again, heart aching with both joy and guilt. He knew what had happened couldn't last. He knew someone would get hurt. But for now, in that fragile pocket of time, it felt like safety, like truth. Morning arrived gray and heavy. Liam was already up, his back turned as he packed a small bag. "I have to go," he said quietly. "Claire's been calling non-stop. I need to fix this before it gets worse." Ethan stood by the couch, the blanket slipping from his shoulders. "And what about last night?" Liam paused. His knuckles whitened around the strap of the bag. "Last night was real," he said. "But so is the mess I've made." He turned to leave. Ethan's voice broke through the silence, fragile and shaking. "You saved me once, Liam. Don't destroy what you gave me." Liam hesitated at the door, eyes filled with guilt and longing. Then he left. The sound of the door closing was louder than thunder. Ethan sank back onto the couch, the jacket still hanging over the armrest. The air smelled of rain, coffee, and loss. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, the silence grew heavier, marking the beginning of a heartbreak that had no clear villain, only two men caught between truth and consequence. Weeks folded into months. The wounds on Ethan's skin had healed, but the ones beneath still pulsed quietly whenever the rain returned. He had moved to another part of the city, smaller, quieter, anonymous. The cafe where he now worked was tucked beside a bookstore, the kind of place where the same faces came every morning but never asked questions. That anonymity was a comfort, and yet, some nights, the silence felt heavier than it should. He still thought about Liam. Not constantly, but in moments, when he heard the sound of an engine outside, or when the rain hit the windows just right. Sometimes, without meaning to, he would reach for the jacket still hanging in his closet, its faint scent of oil and smoke refusing to fade. He had stopped replaying the night they kissed, yet it lingered somewhere deep, like a wound he had learned not to touch. One evening, as he wiped down tables before closing, the bell above the door chimed. He didn't look up at first, expecting a late customer. But when he did, his breath caught. Liam stood there, older somehow, thinner, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. He held a paper cup of coffee, though the steam had long faded. For a long time, neither spoke. The rain outside whispered against the glass, steady and unrelenting. "You look different," Liam said finally, his voice rough around the edges. Ethan smiled faintly. "I had to be." Liam nodded, stepping closer. "Claire's gone," he said, his words heavy but certain. "I told her everything. About me. About us." The admission hung between them, raw and fragile. Ethan didn't know what to feel, relief, guilt, or pity. "Maybe all three." "I'm sorry," Liam said. For leaving like that. For lying. For saving you and then hurting you the same way they did. Ethan placed the cloth down, hands trembling slightly. You didn't hurt me the same way. You just reminded me that safety doesn't always last. Liam lowered his head. I thought I was protecting everyone. But I was just hiding. The honesty in his voice stung, but it was clean, unguarded. For the first time, Ethan could look at him without anger. He saw the man behind the confusion, the one who had carried his guilt like armor. They sat by the window, watching the rain together. It felt like an old rhythm returning, familiar and sad. Do you ever wish it had been different? Liam asked quietly. Ethan thought for a moment. Sometimes. But if it had, maybe I'd still be waiting for someone to save me instead of learning how to save myself. Liam's lips parted, but no words came. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of Ethan's. The gesture alone spoke enough. I miss you, he whispered. Ethan smiled, but there was no bitterness in it. You missed the version of me that needed saving. That's not me anymore. For a moment, silence filled the room again. The cafe lights dimmed as closing time neared. The world outside was still drenched, endless streaks of light reflecting on wet streets. Liam finally stood. I don't know how to make peace with everything I've done, he said softly. You start by forgiving yourself, Ethan replied. And by not turning the past into a punishment. Liam looked at him then, eyes glistening with both gratitude and grief. You always made things sound simple. They're not, Ethan said. But they have to start somewhere. He walked him to the door. The sound of rain greeted them like an old song. For a brief second, it felt like standing in that alley again. The night everything had changed. But this time, Ethan wasn't afraid. Liam turned, his voice barely audible over the storm. I loved you, you know. Ethan met his gaze, calm and steady. I know, he said. And maybe that's enough. The door closed between them. The bell above it chimed once, then silence reclaimed the room. Ethan stood for a while, watching through the window as Liam disappeared into the rain, the shape of him fading into the blur of passing lights. He felt no anger, no longing, just a quiet understanding that not all love stories end in togetherness. Some end in peace. That he returned to the counter, turned off the lights, and locked the door. As he stepped outside, the rain touched his face like a benediction. He pulled Liam's old jacket tighter around himself and walked into the night. His final thought, soft but resolute, drifted through the sound of the storm. He saved me once from others, then from myself. But maybe love isn't about being rescued, it's about learning to stand, even when it rains.